everyone, this is Leslie from Just Less Creations. On March 7th, I created this free tutorial in my Facebook group, Just Less Creations. This tutorial is one of the foundation characters in the upcoming On the Farm workshop premiere, which will be launched on March 19th. It'll run for 7 days through the 25th, and we're going to do 9 characters in those 7 days. Stay tuned after the tutorial to find out more information about this On the Farm workshop premiere. Until then, let's get started. All right, so I have a vanilla pound cake that I've mixed with peanut butter egg filling. And let me tell you, it is absolutely scrumptious. All right, so I have a Wilton's cookie scoop that you can buy at, any Walmart. I'm going to use that. Rule in my house is 2 is 1, 1 is none. So if I'm making cake pops for these tutorials and stuff, I'm going to do 2. So if something happens to that first one, it falls off the stick or anything like that, I have one to back up. Go back to, and I don't have to start from the beginning. So I'm going to start out with 2. All right, so I'm going to take my pound cake. You guys watch me. I just kneaded it in my hand just to make sure there's no air bubbles in there. Once I knead it a couple of times, I'm going to apply a lot of pressure and roll it. Whenever you roll it, you will feel it. There's a definitive line where you feel it's all out of whack, and then all those pieces of your cake pop dough come together and it starts to form that ball. And once you feel that come together, then I release my pressure. I go backwards, real light on the touch around the palm of my hand. And for whatever reason, it makes a nice round ball. I don't understand the science, but it does. All right, so the cake that we're working on today is this horse. Now let's just look at the shape of his head. So if I had a round ball, I need to separate his snout, and I don't know if you can see underneath where his halter is, we have a nice narrow part on his nose. So we're actually gonna start right now to form this centerpiece. All right, so here again, I'm gonna go ahead and start. I don't know if you can see, watch right here as I begin the creation, the separation of the top part of the head from the bottom. And when you're making these cake pops, when you're molding it, you should definitely make sure you do it little bits at a time. If you do it too fast, it'll actually crack your cake pop dough, and you don't want that. So I'm just creating that separation, and I'm looking to see how narrow. Now you can see here's his snout, here's where the bridge of his nose is, and here's the back of his head. I want to go just a little bit more. Okay, now I have this rounded part at the very bottom. I'm going to make the underside of his jaw, his chin. I'm going to flatten the sides, and I'm going to give him a square top nose. Like a pig has the part of the snout, but a horse does not. So I want to flatten that down a little bit. And if I have any cracks, I want to get rid of those. And I just want to square up the sides. But I want to leave that part, the under part, where his chin is. All right. Now that I've done, let me squeeze that one. Let's fix that up. I want a V shape at the bottom. All right, I've got these fondant tools. You can buy them in the Wilt. I think they're just Wilton's ones I got years ago. Now I'm going to separate the top of his jaw with the bottom of his jaw. So about a little less than half. I'm just going to take this pointed end, and again, doing it very gently because I don't want to crack my dough. I just am going to form where his mouth is at. And I want to go deep because when you start adding chocolate, it'll fill that up, but I need enough space because I put teeth in my horse's mouth, so I have this nice little deep shaped V in there. Now, because of my tool created these extra little marks, I'm just going to use my thumb to soften it up and reform that bottom jaw. Okay, beautiful. Now I'm going to grab a small ball tool. I want to create eye sockets for my horse. So I'm going to go straight down the nose at each corner. So I have a corner here and a corner here. I'm just going to go straight down back here at his forehead, and I'm just going to add the eye sockets. And then I'm just going to take that ball tool and smooth that out and fix any of the cracks in the dough. Just going to smooth it out so it's not such a harsh angle. Like that. All right, so now we have the shape of our horse's head. All right, so I grabbed my lollipop stick. I dip my lollipop sticks in chocolate previous to doing cake pops because I keep the butter and the oil in my recipes, but I create a barrier between my paper lollipop stick and the oils in my cake pop dough. So this creates a barrier and my lollipop sticks do not turn yellow. So I just dip it in a little bit of white cake pop right below the eyes. When you're talking physics, you can't have a lollipop stick at the wrong angle because it will absolutely fall off of your stick. So right as the curve to where the bottom of his jaw would be, directly under his eyes, that's where I'm going to put my lollipop stick in. I'm going to push it straight in, turn it clockwise until I feel it connect, and then turn it back a quarter of a turn. And then because I squeezed his head too hard, I gotta fix that. All right, and then I'm just gonna wipe that excess off of the bottom. I'm going to sit it aside and let that chocolate firm up on the inside. All right, so while I let that chocolate firm up on the inside, I'm gonna create all the elements. Let's take a look at our horse. So we have a tuft of hair at the top. We have his ears, which are two-toned. We've got the light tan and also the pink. We have a white eyeball. We have the eyelids. We're separating his mouth, his jaw area. We're going to use a piece of dark chocolate for that. I want to accentuate his nostrils. If you guys have ever been on the other end of a horse's flaring nostrils, you'll know exactly why I want to accentuate them, because it's kind of cool. I also gave him some teeth. I gave him a blue halter so that it would stand out, and I also put the rings on the halter. So we've got a lot of different components here that we're going to make, but we're going to pull them all apart one at a time, and once you see them all individually, you'll see that it's super easy to come together. So let's go ahead. We're going to start out the top and work our way down. We're going to start with his ears. All right, so I've got this modeling chocolate. If you're using modeling chocolate and it gets tacky, always use cornstarch. It'll pull a little bit of that moisture out. So that's what I'm going to do, because I'm going to run it through my KitchenAid mixer pasta maker. So in order to make the ears, I've got this tiny leaf cutter, and I'm just going to do that. And since, whoops, I didn't push it the whole way down. There's one. Now these metal cutters, where the metal pieces come together, they always leave this little notch. So I just want to take that off. I don't want that on my ears. Now this piece of chocolate is kind of thick, not super thick, but it's going to have to hold up the weight of the ear off of the head. So I want to make sure it's a little bit thicker than the other. The pink, I'm just going to use just a super thin, because I just want it for color. I don't need it to do anything other than look pretty. So now that we have the brown ones, I'm going to do the exact same thing to the pink. All right, so since this is just a color format, I'm just going to add water. Water becomes glue for chocolate, and I'm just going to put a little bit of water to glue these together. All right, and I'm going to take the pink, and I'm just going to almost put it to the top and just lay it there like so. So each little element that you can add to your cake pop increases the value and the quality of your cake pop. And if you do that, then you can charge more, by all means. All right, so I took the back of the leaf cutter because my cake pop is not, it's rounded, so I need to be able to create a rounded edge at the bottom of my ear so that it will sit nicely on my horse cake pop. So we'll move that stuff out of the way. I have a rubber-ended sculpty tool. All I'm going to do is just press just a little indent in each one of them. That'll help it fold. And then I'm just going to fold the ends together like so and squeeze it. Let's go ahead and make some eyeballs for our little guy. I'm going to use the widest setting. So it's about 1/8 of an inch, just so you're aware. For the eyes and the eyelids, I'm going to use a Wilton's icing tip, a number 12, and I'm going to cut out 2 whites. Actually, yeah, because I have whites in the other one already. We'll put that aside. And I'm going to use the same number 12 with that same tan, and I'm going to cut, actually I need to cut 4 of these guys out. Now, for the eyes, I'm just going to roll that in a circle. Okay, so to make his eyelids, I'm just taking that bottom third off. Oh, let's do the bottom. Around his snout, I'm going to use some dark brown here. Again, I'm going to put it through my pasta maker. Again, I want it just to be nice and thin. Now, in order to determine what size that we need, I literally have a circle cutter, and whatever I can put on top of it that will actually go around his snout, that's what I'm looking for. That's how I make that determination. So if you make your snout bigger than mine, you're going to need a bigger cutter. So literally this one here, once I get the chocolate on, you got to keep that in mind. Once you put chocolate on, it's going to be a little bit wider. This will be the perfect size. We can always cut some off. It's hard to add some to it if you don't have enough. So I'm going to go ahead and use this cookie cutter. Now I'm going to cut the bottom jaw from the top. Again, I'm just going to take the bottom third, cut it off. Bottom third, cut it off. That's all we need to do for that at the moment. Oh, no, not yet. The top of it, I want to square it up because our the snout, the nose one, our horse, is kind of flat, and then I would just want to round that corner off. All right, so I'm just going to soften that, use the heat from my hands to soften that to make it a nice round edge, get the harshness off. Let's go ahead and do inside of his nostrils. I want a flaring nostril. So I'm going to take a little bit of black. Here I have another icing tip. It's a Wilton's number 6, and I'm just going to cut out a few of them. All right, so all I'm going to do to flare his nostril is I'm going to take my little tiny ball tool. Again, this is a sculpty tool. It comes usually in a 3-pack if you buy them. They're not, again, they're still $10. And I'm just putting a hole right down through the middle. That just gives me my starting point. I'll finish it up once it's actually in the nostril of my horse. Let's go ahead and cut some teeth. I'm going to take that nice white that I started out with. I'm just going to use my palette knife. Nice straight edge. Give it about 1/8 of an inch. Let's do 2 because I have 2 horses. I'm going to cut my ends off so I have a nice straight line to start with. And then all I'm going to do, I have 4 teeth on my horse, so I'm not going to cut through. I'm just going to score it. And then I'll score, oops. I'm going to score it again and score it again. All of a sudden now we have teeth. Oh, let's go ahead and make some hair for the tuft of hair at the top of his head. I'm just going to take some brown and I'm just going to roll a rope. All right, and then I'm just going to start cutting some pieces, some short, some long. That'll be good enough for now to get started. And I'm just going to take one end and roll it to a point. That's it. Now some of them I'll probably cut off when I go to put it on. Oh, let's do a few more because I want to do some in the back of his head too. So I want some longer ones for the back, for the mane. So that'll be good for that. Oh, one more thing. While I'm thinking about it, we need the rings that hold the halter. So we'll just take that same white, we'll go back to that same number 6 Wilton's icing tip, and we'll do the exact same thing with the white. Let me find my small ball tool, and I need 2 of them for each halter. So I'm going to do 4 of them. Okay, and then I'm going to just put that little hole right down in the top. All right, so now we have the halter rings done. Let's do the halter. All right, so another way to do that is when I'm not doing cake pops, I'm quilting. So I have lots and lots of these clear rollers that have these tick marks that I can look at. I'm going to use that to create the straps for my horse, the halter. So I'm just going to use my palette knife and cut that off. So now I have a nice straight line to start with. I'm just going to line that up with my tick mark on my roller. I'm going to do 1/8 of an inch. There's one. So when you have a cake pop and you've just added divots or cuts or whatever, it's not like a circle where you can drop it in and not expect major air bubbles to get down inside sockets. So because we created the sockets, we need to make sure we fill them first. So I'm going to drop some chocolate in the eye socket first. That way there's no air bubble in there. Air bubbles are bad. Air bubbles are very bad. You need to make sure that you get all of them out. I'm going to drop it in at a 45-degree angle, pull it towards you, and spin it at the same time until the chocolate touches itself. Sorry about that, I got ahead of myself. And then I'm just going to let gravity do its thing. And in the meantime, I'm going to look for air bubbles. It's so very important to make sure that you get rid of those air bubbles. Now I'm just taking the tip of my knife and making sure I get the excess of that chocolate out of his mouth and his eye sockets. And then I'm just going to shake it back and forth. All right, so now that I got most of this excess off, while it's still wet, I'm going to put a nice little streak of white down on my cake pop to give my horsey this beautiful white. And I'm just going to use my knife to mix it. And then as I shake it, I'm going to do it over the chocolate, the brown. As I shake it, it'll create that beautiful little pattern. All right, so as you can see, I've got this really cute little pattern now on the top of his head. I'm going to take that excess chocolate off of the bottom. All right, so while it is wet, I'm going to grab my eyes and drop it into the eye socket place. I'm going to use it as my glue. And then I'm going to grab my ears and put my ears on. I'm going to use that to my advantage. Okay? I'm going to add a little bit of chocolate because when I put it on it was a little low, so I pulled my cake pop, or I pulled that chocolate up higher on his head and I exposed that dough. So I'm just adding a little bit of chocolate, and while it's wet I can do that. All right, and while I'm at it, I'm going to use that wet chocolate and drop my horse's teeth right in there as well. I'm going to grab my little palette knife and use it to push it up against the top where I want it. All right, and at this point, I'm going to let it go because now I need to let that dry just a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to grab this guy because I've already left him dry. He was done earlier. Now I'm going to show you if you're a little bit concerned about doing things while it's wet, you can also do it while it's dry. So now that it's dry, I'm just going to take a little bit of my chocolate, put it here on the upper top lip, grab the other set of teeth. Okay, so oh, we need to put his ears on. Again, I'm just going to add some chocolate to his head. Grab an ear, put an ear up there. A lot of times when you're working with cake pop characters and you're putting them, don't hold it by the actual lollipop stick, because if you're putting too much pressure on, it will crack. right here around the stick, so I always hold on to the pop itself. And then if there's any excess, you just kind of scoop it off of there. Let's do the other side. All right, so while we're here, we'll just go ahead and complete this little guy. I'm gonna grab his eyelids. Give me two that are about the same size. Now, because this is not sticking off of his head and it's gonna lay right up against stuff, I'm just gonna use water. All right, now that I put a little bit of water on there, I'm just gonna lay it right across the eye, just so that the back of your eye, or your back of the eyelid, actually touches the cake pop. And then I'm just gonna push it down over top of the white of the eye, like so. And do that with the other one. Now, if you can't get your finger down, these rubber tipped Sculpey tools are beautiful. They just kind of push it where you want it to go. So I'm just smoothing it to my cake pop. All right, so now we've got his eyes and his eyelids. Now let's go ahead and work on his nose. We're going to work on the top part first. I'm just going to add some water. Again, I don't need chocolate because it's not sticking off. I don't have to worry about gravity pulling at it or anything like that. Now, the straight edge is going to go right above his teeth, like so. You're going to try to even it up as much as you can on both sides. And I'm going to push it away because I want it to go the whole way back. I'm just going to, because chocolate is very pliable, I can push it and make it go to where I want it to. I'm going to do along the top of his lip first. Now the key is when I put the bottom, I want the corners to be able to touch, like completing that whole loop of this is his mouth. And then once I have it where I want it to go, I'm just going to push the top part down right above his teeth. Okay, now let's do the bottom part. Let's sit him over here a minute. I'm going to flip him upside down. I'm going to do the exact same thing right at the top of his lip. And then I'm going to push it. Now see how far off it is? I'm just going to push it until it reaches that corner. I want those two colors to just kiss, just touch. We'll do that on this side, just till they kiss. Now I'll flip it down. I got water on it. And I'll just firm that up right there. Okay? Now I'm just going to soften that my hands are warm, so I'm just going to soften that edge up along the top of his nose. All right? Now, wherever my ball tool is. Okay, I've got a ball tool. Here's my tiny ball tool. Here's the medium ball tool, the middle. Now I'm going to create his nostrils. And I'm just going to use my ball tool and make some round, pushing out that round modeling chocolate. There's one. So now I have a flared nostril horse. However, I don't want the light color shining through. I want the darker. I want to give depth and dimension. So that's why I have the black. I'm just going to use some plain old water. Just going to drop one in each one of those. All right, now that I got it in each one of them, I'm going to again take my ball tool and I'm going to force that into that nostril. And now it looks like we have depth. Now, got that water coming up through, so I'm just going to take a paper towel and take that excess water out there. Like that. Oh my gosh, she's coming together so darn cute. Okay, so now, oh, look at that. I pressed on them too hard. This is beautiful. This is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So what happens when your cake pop dough cracks because you squeezed them too hard and you're working on them? Let me show you. So I'm going to take my knife and I am just going to put chocolate along that crack. And it is very important for you to get the very tip of the crack where it starts and where it's ending to stop it from cracking any further. And that's why I love to do these live tutorials. And then I'll just take that excess off. Okay, once I get that excess off, I'll take the warmth of my thumb and make sure it's all smoothed down. And look, it's gone. You can't even see it. Well, let me wipe that rest of that off. Just like that. It's gone. All right, back to what we were doing. Now let's make the halter. All right, so to make the halter, we're going to go ahead and put our little rings on. Let's flip you over. All right, I'm going to put a little spot where I want a water, where I want that ring to sit. We're going to put them on. They will be our guide for the blue part of, darn it, we'll just pick it up and put it on. There's one. Try to line it up on both sides. Just push it down, make sure it stays in place there. Now we're going to take our blue strip. I'm going to cut off the bottom piece so that I have a nice straight edge to start with. I'm going to use some water here. You know what, guys? I think we need to put the hair on the top of his head first before I put that bridle on, or that harness on. So let's go ahead and take some chocolate. We'll use brown. We'll go ahead and put the tuft of hair on the top of his head first. A little bit of chocolate. And we're just going to start laying some of our strands of hair on top. And then I'm just pushing it down, trying to take that edge off of it. And then I just want to roll them a little bit and give some, whoops, I got chocolate on that. I just want to roll it some to give it some whimsical looks. All right, and let's do the back part. We're going to give him some hair for his mane. So I just give a little strip down the back. And again, I'm just going to let it just be whimsical around the side. And I'm not worried about where it comes together because that's where our halter is going to go. And I'm just going to make a nice straight line, clean that up a little bit. All right, now we'll go ahead and put the halter on. I need to put a little bit more water back on there because it dried up real quick. All right, from the loop, from that ring, we're going to go up around the back of the ears to the other one. And right where it comes across the top, you can see where it falls. You're just going to cut that off right there. Well, that didn't work. We'll put that ring back on there. All right, now we're going to take it from the top. Get another one. We're going to go right across the top, starting at the ring to this ring. And just push that down just a little bit. And we'll go ahead and add a little bit more water to that. So it didn't go the whole way. Nice straight edge to start with. From here to this side. Now I kind of let that halter droop in the bottom because all of my horses growing up, I always left it loose on the bottom for them. All right, so the last thing that we need to do for our little horse is to give him some pupils for his eyes so he can come alive and not look like a zombie, which is what he currently looks like at the moment. So I have some poppy paint. I have found by far the best thing if I wanted to paint on chocolate. I definitely prefer poppy paint. All right, I'm going to take a little tiny paintbrush and I'm just going to drop a little round dot. And there you go, guys. Our horse has come to life. I don't think I missed anything. I think I got them. All right, so you guys can do this. Each one of those components in and of itself is very manageable. You know, when you look at the overall picture, it can look overwhelming and daunting. But when you break it down into each little tiny bite-sized piece, you absolutely can do this. Until then, guys, be creative. I love you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking it out with me. And hey, guys.